Welcome to One Word a Day. I'm Sophia, pilot into the universe of Chinese that is continue exploring classical China character. I like it. CCC. So Min is today's character, and I put two versions of Min here. Okay, always on the top is simplified Chinese, traditional, which is Taiwan, Hong Kong, any other non-mainland China. Um, Chinese overseas, then they would use traditional. So the bottom is traditional. And through the episodes I've been putting, ever since I started putting simplified and traditional together, oftentimes they are the same. Occasionally they are different. Contrary to what I formerly understand, I thought every traditional Chinese would be a different version as simplified because we simplify from the traditional. That's the whole point of simplification. But anyways, and then I kind of come to the hypothesis, let's say, nothing is conclusive here, that simplified and traditional, if they look the same, that means this character, the significance of this character, as a concept, it's so, I guess, hit the right spot of conciseness and accuracy that you don't need to further simplify it. It's already pretty simple, and it's already expressed the concept visually as concise as possible. So that's when the two characters, the simplified traditional, converge. Okay, versus 2,000 years ago's dictionary by Xu Chen, 说文解字. So this is how that looks. It got a little bit more complication. Like, what is this thing? I would rather regard it as stylized rendering because it doesn't really serve a purpose. I don't ever see this kind of a curvature, almost like an S curve. Um, Here, serve any show it in any other places in the script style of Chinese. So I would regard it simply as a face of when this character was rendered, and it got to be stylized somehow with this S-curve. So this is even more ancient rendering that got captured on bronze vessel. So that, in a way, is even more closer to the origin when people came up with the idea of to express mean as people. How do they express it? They express it in this kind of abstract shape, right? Wait until I explain to you. So this diagonal line with a dot in the middle here, if we take that out, simply the remaining of this structure, that is an ancient way to depict a human eye. And we all know eye serves a huge function as a human, I guess, cognition. When we see things, we see it, or I see you as I understand you, I understand it, right? So seeing is English will have so many, right? Seeing is a believing, out of sight, out of mind, right? So seeing really do something to how we think, how we operate. So when Chinese have this eyeball, it's not eyeball, it's the outer outline of the eye shape. I just noticed my eye shape is different from what this is abstraction. I guess that's kind of average how the general humans back then, the eye shape would look like. And also, this could be stylized. And also, because this is applied as a message engraved onto this metal vessel. So for the application in that material, probably there's some confinement of how you can express it. Anyways, this is eye shape. And then with this diagonal line, that means it's kind of looking like this, right? Covering of the eye. And this dot is an indicator that is not anything that's physical. Because if we see this diagonal line as a covering, things you can visually express is covering, this dot then is the abstraction of where you're paying attention to. Because when Chinese try to conceptualize the world in a 2D frame, And we can own, like, there's no verbal communication. This is a creation of a verbal communication. So visually, how do we express where among all these messages of the eyeball and the diagonal, where do we pay attention to? This attention focus is this dot. So this dot landed on this diagonal line means that the emphasis, the focus of this whole message is about the covering of the eye. And what is covering of the eye? And that is, what's the definition of people? At least in the people in the sense of a historical Chinese context of what is people. Min, what is min? It is people who do not see. And this, of course, language was created, I guess, collectively, but mostly in service of the ruling class. For the ruling class, try to figure out how to rule, right? A lot of them serve that purpose. So from ruling class perspective, people who do not see are probably the easiest to govern because I guess rulers, they're just humans and they try to cover themselves with divinity somehow to legalize their rule over, like, if you are just ordinary, like you're one of us, how are you going to be there? There was no selection process, right? How would you justify your ruling the rest of the humans there on this land? So for ruler point of view, the easiest way to rule is people don't see. And so that whatever mistakes the ruler did, people don't see. So it's like the consequence, especially negative ones, when it came out, people don't see. So the risk of being overturned, the risk of losing control would be much, much lower. So min, from a ruler's perspective, are people collectively don't see. All right. So now fast forward 21st century, I'm unpacking what is people. It's a lot of heavy loaded message in there. And we all came from that history. I guess in the East and West, everywhere. So there are different ruling structures. So when I first learned about what Min is about, it makes sense. And it's kind of being honest about that as well. All right. 人民, human people, simply is, I guess, is a later term because Min in ancient times, just people is enough. People who do not see. And 人 is human. And when we pair these two, it doesn't really add much. I view it as the mechanism of Chinese as a heavily sound overlapping language. When you hear it audibly without written out, without seeing the written characters, you wouldn't know for sure what the meaning is about. So we have to pair two of them. So 人 and 民, each of them have multitudes of meanings. And when we pair these together, and both of them are pointing toward one direction, sort of. And so that way it's double down, secure of the meaning. Okay. 便民, 便 means convenience people. So convenience people oftentimes was put on the signage of some corner store. And it's kind of 7-Eleven in China back then that would put this 便民商店. So convenience, for the people's convenience, shopping commodity 店 store. So that's the common application of that. And interestingly, like people later on, we can tell, like people no longer thinking about, majority of people, we are just mean, we are the people collectively. But if we lose sight of this people, this character originally means people who do not see. So it's a political term from the perspective of the ruling class. And when we use it as a consumer economy, 便民, right? We're talking about convenience to people, convenience for consumers. We lost the original heavy loaded political concept of 民 So here, 便民 simply people as consumer. And the 贱民, so here is again from the ruling class point of view, they would evaluate people and their whole ruling apparatus, right? Like who are more valuable to them versus, I guess, dispensable. So 贱民 are majority of the people, but regard them as cheap, as low class, as negligible or dispensable. People who don't, from the ruler's point of view, you don't regard them much. And they are, I guess, even if we want to evaluate human lives on a scale, the 贱民 would be many of such lives would be equivalent of one life of some more noble person, something like that, from the ruler's point of view. Of course, 21st century, everybody life equal. I mean, is it kind of getting close? At least we can conceptually think or pretend to think that every life is equal. But Chinese, being honest here, is explicitly saying that some people's lives are just cheaper. And especially, I mean, people came from this people who do not see, they don't know their rights, they have no will to fight, to go against when the ruling class was, issuing some policies that really did harm to them. People would not voice up or rebel, right? So therefore, from the ruler's point of view, they are cheap. You can kind of discard them. So here is a group of grandpas playing Chinese chess in a public park somewhere. So equivalent pictures of say in American's public park, maybe there are such like a chessboard drawn on a stone or I don't know, a wooden table, then you can play with strangers. And that's kind of a community forming, and they are having good time. And they are the faces of Ming. And people who do not see, when we know the historical, concept about Ming, it's kind of depressing. But if you put that on ordinary people in their everyday life, it may be a different picture. They may have happiness and the joy and having fun playing, and that's me from all different perspectives. All right, thanks for your time. See you another day.